Welcome to episode 158 of the Lone Hockey Podcast, where today we're going to be talking about some standouts in last night's matchup between the Islanders and the Blackhawks. And even though the Islanders they pulled away with a 5-1 effort towards the tail end of the game, the Blackhawks they climbed their way back. TJ Brody scored, and then Tyler Bertuzzi scored twice, but obviously it ended up not being enough. Where the Islanders they won the game 5-4, and it was just a slightly inconsistent effort from the Hawks yesterday. I felt like a lot of their players were standing out. Connor Bedard was notable. I felt like Kevin Korchinski was notable. A lot of their young guys are notable, and they called up Frank Nazar today, so that's another big add as well. But you look at how they played yesterday. Connor Bedard was really he was all across the board offensively very engaged, and I thought his offensive instincts were there. His ability to shoot off 1 foot was there. How he was shooting in terms of weight transfers and how he was able to manipulate small area pressure. And he was just very consistent at being able to utilize his puck skill to be able to manipulate in tight. And I felt like that was a big asset of his throughout this game. And he was just playing really well all throughout, and it was really exciting to watch. Alex Vlasic had some really good puck movement ability, and he was really steady all across the board. I thought with Vlasic still being a top pairing defenseman for them in the meantime with Seth Jones out because that's his prototypical partner for the D in terms of him playing the left side consistently and obviously Jones on the right, and they play a lot of minutes together at 5-on-5, and they're really crucial together, and they really work in tandem off each other really well. So I feel like even in Jones's absence, he still stood out, and that's a really good sign to see because his ability to move pucks are there, his ability to utilize his instincts are there, his calmness and his composure and his ability to shut down plays at the line is there. It's all there consistently, and he's just really good at utilizing that ability on a regular basis. And he's really exciting to watch in that sense. He's not super flashy or anything like that, but when you really dive deeper in his game, you understand the details of his defensive habits at 5-on-5 and also on the PK as well. And Kevin Korchinski, I thought once again he looked good throughout this game, and similar to how he played against the Rangers in terms of his ozone instincts, his ability to transition pucks, his ability to stretch passes. I felt like again his entry denial situations are a little inconsistent in terms of how he utilizes his feet and how he times his gaps and his reads in those situations. But at the same time, Korchinski still looked very steady. I felt like he was very offensively engaged and was very proactive in terms of how he was thinking offensively as well. Tyler Bertuzzi, of course, a guy who is really engaged all around the puck. I felt like he was playing very consistent hockey as a checker, as a two-way winger, as a guy who can play in D zone, O zone, neutral zone, in transition with the puck. And his puck management was noticeable. I felt like he was making plays that made sense and they were easy to execute. So that was a really good sign to see from his game. It'll be interesting to see how he continues that heading into tomorrow's matchup against New Jersey in the afternoon. And as for the Islanders, I thought Brock Nelson had a good game. Maxim Siplikov had a really good game. I've liked Siplikov ever since the start of the season. I feel like there's still more offensive potential that's slightly untapped in terms of his game. And especially because of role usage, how he's utilized at 5-on-5 and on the power play. I feel like he could be a guy on many lower quality teams in the league. He could be an easy top six forward. So I feel like with Siplikov, he just needs to earn that consistently, and he has the details in his game. He has the offensive instincts. He has the ability to play hard around the net. He has the ability to play hard as a checker and in D zone. And I feel like he's a guy who is a slightly under the radar rookie, and obviously it's harder to consider him a rookie, but I feel like he's slightly under the radar in that sense where he can be a guy at some point if he stays with the Islanders and chooses to stay there and play there. He could be very well be a top six guy for them in the longer term. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays in the long term and how that continues to adapt. And then Isaiah George, I've liked Isaiah George ever since he was called up. I feel like he's gotten the trust of the coaching staff, and obviously him playing with Grant Hutton. He didn't play with him yesterday. Grant Hutton was out, but those two together, and they played a little bit together in Bridgeport as well with the Bridgeport Islanders in the AHL on a pairing, and that's translated really well to the NHL this far. Grant Hutton's been playing pretty steady hockey in terms of defensive play. And then Isaiah George is also a very steady defenseman. Good reads, good instincts. I like his stick work and how poised he is. He's similar to Vlasic in that sense, where he's a light, slightly rawer version of him. But with George, you're getting a guy who's a very steady all-around defenseman. You know what you're getting in him. You know what he's going to bring night in, night out. It's rare to find that in defensemen, especially rookies who aren't necessarily aren't necessarily prototypical guys to make it so soon because he was playing in the OHL like last year, I believe. And so it's interesting to see that translation period where he's really adapted to this style of play really well. And I love his ability to defend line rush. I'm a big fan of that in terms of his game. I really like how he's able to close plays off and really kill plays at the line. And also at the same time, he's really skilled at timing when to jump, when not to, when to hold the line, when not to, when to be active, when to step up, like all those different reads. I feel like he's gotten a good grasp on many of those, and it's really helped him thus far to be able to translate to his defensive habits and how he's playing defensively. So that's been really exciting to watch. I thought Ilya Sorokin had a really good game, even though obviously he let in five, not five, he let in 4 goals. I thought Soroka was making some really well-timed saves. His lateral movement was really well executed. He was good control in terms of his blocker side and his glove, and his butterfly ability was there. I felt like there's some times where he's kicking rebounds out a little too dangerously to certain areas. So sometimes he kick out a rebound with his padding and with his toes, and it would land in a dangerous area. He had a couple of those, but not too many. But outside of that, he's really dangerous to the goalie because he's not afraid to challenge guys in the crease. At the same time, he's not afraid to step up in the crease and be able to be a little bit more aggressive in that sense. I feel like you get a little bit more of that with Russian goalies who aren't necessarily as prone to being fear and having fear in the crease. I feel like a lot of these Russian goalies, for some reason, they're just wired to have not as much of a sense of fear, which is kind of a good thing in terms of how they play the game, and they can play the game a little bit more aggressively in that sense. He's not a super physical goalie, like he's not going to get into contact, like cross check guys in the back, but he's a guy who's very reliant on positioning and focus, of course, and you have to have those two aspects as a goalie, otherwise you can't really make it. But with Sorokin, he has a very detailed focus where he can scan through pressure, he can scan around pressure. He's really good at finding the puck through traffic, through layers of traffic. And it's one thing to find the puck when you have an open lane to shoot. It's another thing to find the puck when lanes are closed down and pucks are still coming through. So with Sorokin, he's really good at doing that. He's really good at stopping stretch plays and stretch shots from afar. He's good at stopping shots from awkward angles. I feel like he's really good and tight on his post, which helps. And he was doing that yesterday. And I just noticed him in terms of his all-around ability as a goalie, and that's really good. And you really want to see that as the Islanders because some teams they don't necessarily have quality players up front and on the back end, and then they need a stud goalie to be able to make those key saves when necessary. So with Sorokin, he was all over the board yesterday. He was really playing well, playing consistent hockey, and he was really exciting to watch in terms of how he was able to execute some of his saves as well.